Forrest did show up. All right, we're already live. We'll just add him in. Welcome back.
So every new laptop requires setup of new things.
No worries. Welcome back, everybody, to the PagerDuty Twitch channel. This is our first process automation release notes show of 2023. So we got Jake and Forrest. You guys are going to talk about 4.9.0. Pretty exciting. Right. What do you got for us today?
So there's one major highlight that we'll dig into and demo, and then there's a couple of other minor updates that we'll talk about. The major enhancement that most people will be excited to hear about are an enhanced plugin configuration user interface. And so we're making it easier for users to set up their properties and credentials needed for the suites of plugins that we provide out of the box. And previously where you had to modify a config file, now there's an actual GUI wrapped around setting up configuration of plugin properties. So that's a major enhancement that we'll dig into. The other minor updates are around our runner, gearing up for major enhancement to that we won't get into too much detail around because we don't want to spill the beans on that quite yet. Forrest, did I miss anything?
No. I want to continue talking a little bit more about the plugin configuration though, because that's something that we worked on for quite a while. If anyone has worked with Rundeck for a long time, you know that you used to have to configure everything on the console. Right, text files on the server, which was odd, and we've continued to iterate through the system configuration, where you could set some of those settings in the UI, for global, as well as reduce the number of restarts that were required around setting variety settings, and this takes that to another level, as Jake said. It allows a GUI for the project level settings. Instead of that full global, you can do it right there at the project level. So those settings would apply specifically to that project, as well as for these larger suites of plugins. Right, we have lots of plugins that do lots of different things across the Rundeck landscape. There's 11 or 12 last time I counted, and there are things like the common ones are like health check or job steps or node sources. But previously, if you wanted to configure, say, AWS EC2 for those three things, right? If I want to perform actions on an EC2 instance, I would first have to configure the node source with, the proper credentials. Then I would have to configure the job steps to do that thing with those same credentials. Then I would have to configure the health check to make sure that it's safe to run those commands. Now you can set it in one spot for all three of those suites.
Very nice.
We're taking steps off the table, as where we see that friction.
That sounds great.
Awesome. Yeah, so I can just provide a visual for that. So what we're doing for rolling this out is on a plugin suite by plugin suite basis. We are rolling out this new method of configuring plugin properties. And so as of right now, we've just released this new configuration method for the PagerDuty suite of plugins. And we're working on the AWS plugin suite. Then we'll do ServiceNow, Jira, so on and so forth. And so what I'll show today are the PagerDuty plugin configuration. What I'll show is just to bring everyone up to speed. Yeah, can you guys see my screen? There we go. Nice. All right. So what I'll show is actually what it looks like today before this enhancement. So when I'm in process automation or runbook automation, and I go to configure properties, credentials to be used by plugins at the project level, I go into project settings, and then I go into edit configuration file. And so even though this is done, thankfully not on the actual process automation server, it's done in the web app, it's still modifying key value pairs of this config file. And so previously I would have to, type in here project, something like project.pagerduty.access key. And then I would have to type in the key storage file path, PD access key. And I'd have to go ahead and save that. And then the PagerDuty plugins could pull that in. But as Forrest mentioned, that typically would only work for like job step plugins. If you wanted to, if you had a node source and a notification plugin and a health check, many times you'd have to either put in a new key value pair here for that specific plugin type, or you'd have to set it on the plugin itself. So that's the status quo today. So what we have just come out.
There were challenges with that too. Sorry to interrupt you, but there were challenges with that. I mean, you even saw it, not to pick on Jake, but you got to get that string just right, and you have to know what the strings are, right? So it was a lot of digging through docs, across those 3 suites that I mentioned before. That's going to be 6 or 7 lines that you have to type just right, and get all of that into this, not on the server, but on the server text file editor.
Exactly. Ironically. But as Forrest points out, there's many points of potential room for user error in that workflow. So what we now have today is this new tab plugins here, this part of the project configuration. This didn't exist previously. Today, if you want to enable this on your 4.9.0 process automation instance, there's a system level property that you need to put in that we can that's in the docs that we'll link as part of the Twitch stream of how to enable this. So it's kind of like a feature flag. And so when I click here, I now have this user interface for configuring this project level plugin settings. And you can see here, I've already set this for PagerDuty, but we'll go ahead and click edit in here. And so you can see the types of fields that you're used to seeing on a job step plugin or on a node source or notification plugin. What this allows you to do is set this such that it can be used by that full suite of plugins anywhere in the project. And so you can see here for the secrets, which is the most common type of plugin property, especially one that you would set at a project or system level. I don't have to remember the correct key path. I can actually select that and select my key from key storage and remove that potential user error. This is just a free-form property that's optional depending on the PagerDuty plugin I'm using. When I click save here and then save, that will commit that those properties to be used by any of the PagerDuty plugins within this project. And then I can do the same thing in other projects. And what we have here, right, is this ability to do the same thing, but for those other plugin suites that we will be releasing shortly. You can see right now all we have is PagerDuty, so I don't get another option right now. But when I go in and save this, like I said, that's now committed. And when I go to one of my jobs that uses that one of those plugins in that plugin suite, in this case, I have a job that updates in PagerDuty incident status. So I'm using the update incident PagerDuty plugin. You'll notice that in the job definition, I haven't configured what my credentials are for PagerDuty. So it's pulling those credential properties in from the project level. And so I can go ahead and just take my incident ID here, plug that in here and run this job. And that will go ahead and resolve that. You can see that will resolve that incident here.
Cool. So putting this together, does it have any other impact on other things you have installed or existing stuff? It seems like you enabled this, put the new configuration in, and everything picked it up that already needed it. So it seems pretty smooth. Are there any other impacts for folks?
It doesn't. There isn't really other impacts per se, right? Like it's not going to break your current configuration of using that project properties config file. And actually, for those that have a keen eye, they'll see that in that project config file, there were key value pairs that have been placed there from the new GUI based configurator. So it's not going to break anything.
Okay.
And it works seamlessly with, like, as you saw, like with the key storage facility and other process automation services, such that there isn't much else to it other than just making the setup of plugins that much easier.
Cool. And like, so this is available now product by project. Is there a way to do it across the entire system? So like everybody gets to use cool PagerDuty configurations in there?
Yeah. And Forrest referenced what we'd been calling configuration management. And so this is an enhancement, I would say, to configuration management, providing those mechanisms for configuring a whole suite of plugins. And I can quickly show that as well, like setting it at the global level.
Yeah, I think we were focusing on the project one because it also has that benefit of the GUI, better experience at that project level. But the same plugin groups functionality is available in the system configuration section,
Sweet.
which is that system wide. So if you go and see now, the PagerDuty one looks slightly different than the others, but it is that same group setup that would apply globally, and these are tiered, so you can set this one as sort of the starting point, and then if you have a project that needs to be different, say you want to run a project that's a dev project and you're going to point it to a different PagerDuty instance, you can run that project with its own settings, and it will take that as precedence.
Oh,
right?
nice.
Precedence continues on down to the job level as well, so if you get to a particular job step and you want to override the settings for that particular step, you can do that.
That's awesome. That'd be super helpful for folks who have like some global API keys on PagerDuty and some like user level API keys that do other things. So
yeah, when you do turn on that feature flag, it doesn't bring in your existing settings. You do have to reset it up. That was sort of that was part of the impetus around adding that sort of deliberate feature flag. At some point in the future, it'll be on more by default. But since we know right now, anyone that's coming in will either be brand new or more likely have it existing. So turning that on, you still have to go and set the values. It doesn't do a migration per se, because we wouldn't necessarily know exactly where you want to pull them from.
Cool. All right. I put the link to the new documentation in the chat there for folks. There is a call out. It's in a little yellow box there for the project level plugin configuration. You can see that how to enable that beta feature there in the docs. So, cool. What else? Anything else you want to talk about in 4.9.0 today?
Let me just glance real quick at those release notes and remember, we do so much stuff each release that sometimes I forget about that little thing that was like, oh yeah.
I mean, this first one under additional updates, for those that are on our release highlights page, in fixing a HashiCorp Vault issue where for users that use app roles as part of their RBAC approach, their role-based access control approach for HashiCorp Vault is very common using app roles. And so we made it so that you can navigate through the storage tree using app roles as part of that auth method from process automation. So I think that's actually a pretty noticeable one for a number of our Vault customers.
Cool.
Yeah, and then just scanning down through through some of the weeds on this. I thought about showing my screen, but like I said, new laptop, not sure how that's going to go. So
I can pull it up if you want me to.
Well, there's something else I was going to call out in just a second, but there's quite a few CVEs that we addressed in this.
Oh yeah.
So they're common. I didn't click on each one, and they're typically caught by our internal scanning. They're typically package updates or some library that we rely on had a little update that we needed. But I see here that there's 4 or 5 of them. So security and keeping up to date is always important. And then a shout out. The thing I was going to pull the release notes up for. we had two separate, community members. These are not folks that work, or paid by PagerDuty in any way. They just offered their assistance, and I believe some of these were documentation updates and translation updates. So Patrice and Sota, thank you very much.
Yay! Awesome.
Before moving on from the note on the CVEs for those for our open source customers and on-prem customers, be sure to update. It's always best practice. Stay up to date with the latest version, not just for the features, but for the security purposes. And then, for those that, again, have a keen eye and are looking through the release highlights, they'll see some things related to our runner, and you can infer what a lot of that is leading to. But like I said, we'll save that for major announcements in the coming months.
Oh yeah, runner. Is that the runner node executor enhancement thing that's listed there?
Something like that.
All right, awesome. Teasing for future releases. Love it. Excellent. All right, anything else we want to share? Anything else coming up that folks? Well, Tuesday we're doing a Welcome to Rundeck webinar that will be hosted by me on Tuesday. So if folks out there are just joining us, like, what is going on? I don't understand. Come hang out with us on Tuesday. You can find that at pagerduty.com/events to sign up for that webinar, and we'll take you through just the basics of setting all this up and getting it going. There's also a survey
that they do for that. Like, would it be good to get ahead of anything?
Oh yeah, if folks are interested in that, I think you'll get an email when you sign up. But also, like, there's let me get you the link to the Welcome Project, and you can check that out, because you'll want some Docker and you'll want some other things going on there, so that you're ready to go and don't have to wait for a bunch of downloads on the day.
Docker's a big download. So
Docker's a big download. And there's a lot of running containers in that project. So once you get it going, there's lots of stuff there to download. So take a look at that. And if you want to sign up for the webinar, I can get you the link for that.
I think you were about to mention the survey, the OSS user survey that we have out there as well.
Yes. We have a link for that for folks. That is for the Rundeck open source community. There is a survey running, so
you can win prizes.
Looking for some feedback. Yes. There's prizes. If you fill it out, there are prizes. You have until the end of January to fill it out, and there are prizes involved if you do so. So lots of stuff there for folks, and that's just about, like, what kind of stuff are you using and what you're using it for, how long have you been using it, what kind of job do you do, so that we get a better idea of, like, what folks are doing and what you'd like to see in the future and all that good stuff. So yeah, super important, so we know we're headed in the right direction.
If you're catching this later, all of these links are on the doc site. The survey link is up at the top in the green banner. The release notes and the welcome project and everything are also contained within. So the power of the search bar is your friend there.
All there. All there. All right. Well, excellent. Is there anything else you want to tease for the next release? When will we hear from you guys again?
I don't know about the next release. But here's I'll solicit some, feedback ideas. I'm not quite sure the best way to get those in, but, use your internet powers. We're curious and interested how you measure the value of your automation solution, right? A couple releases ago, we talked about our ROI metrics feature. We know some enhancements that we already want to make to that, right? As that, was just sort of initial, release to get some ideas flowing. But we're also curious what others might want as far as measuring value. So, and then I think that over in a little bit of course of time, we'll have a session kind of dedicated around that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Cool. Anything else, Jake? We all good?
I think that sums it up.
All right. Excellent way to start off the new year. Bunch of cool new stuff to show off. So yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thanks, Manny. Good to see you.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll wish you all an uneventful day.
Thanks.